In the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Commander decks, you're going to find something a little different. What's up? Let me fill you in. Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast. And one thing we're always looking to do with Commander is see if there's a flavorful twist or addition we can add into the decks. For example, with the Brothers War, I asked if I could do the decks all in the old card frame, so the decks themselves would be like a relic out of the past. With March of the Machine and Doctor Who Commander, we did Plane Chase. It really made sense for both of those, which featured a ton of different worlds. This is not the kind of thing we want to do every single time and shoehorn in, but when it makes sense or is a flavorful fit, it really makes for a nice addition. And that brings us to Outlaws of Thunder Junction. As you might have heard me talk about in my Commander opening earlier this week, lead designer Corey Bowen was really keen to find something that fit the theming of the world. It's certainly the kind of setting that feels like it would have some sort of quest attached to it, so he started working on it as a side project. One of his major goals starting out was to have a lighter touch. Things like Plane Chase have a huge impact on gameplay. You have to think about how to spend your mana, roll a dice, manipulate planes, and so on. This would want to be something less impactful and time-consuming than all of that and fit a bit of a different space. So he tried a ton of things. Elements like hidden roles and goals, even at one point a little board with objectives on them. But what he loved the most was this idea of a bounty board that was resonant with the world and sounded like something fun to try in Commander. And so after a bunch of design work, now you'll find it in Outlaws of Thunder Junction Commander in the token section of each deck. Let me walk you through how it works. First, you need at least 6 total bounties. There's 3 per deck, so with just the ones from 2 decks you can play, or if you or your friends grabbed all the decks between you, you can toss all the bounties in the center and shuffle them up. And in fact, the back of the cards have the rules on them, which is a pretty clever conservation of space. When the 3rd turn cycle begins, so the starting player takes their 3rd turn, you flip over the top bounty. Oh look, it's Goratash and Silas here. Bounties check if you've completed them at the end of the turn. So when you go to your end step, you check to see if the condition is met. In this case, dealing damage to all of your opponents. If you did, you collect the bounty and check the reward chart, make a treasure token. Then at the beginning of the next player's turn, a new bounty shows up. If you didn't meet the condition to claim the bounty, it moves up to the next level. You can use a dice or similar to track it. At its top level, 4, when claimed, you get to create 2 treasure and draw a card. You just keep playing like this, and if all the bounties get claimed, you reshuffle them all to make a new pile. Now let me tell you a bit more about the design. It's pretty light and meant to be able to throw into any game. Many of the bounties are pretty generic things, like hit all of your opponents or damage a player in a certain direction. Some are a bit more keyed in though, like the Outsider, which wants you to cast a spell not from your hand, or Lord Fajal, which wants a land to hit the graveyard. Something that at a given Commander table, at least a couple decks are probably set up to do, but will take some work. In particular though, those more directional ones often key into the themes for the 4 pre-constructed decks. So out of the box, you feel like there are ones which are more meant for you to complete. But there's nothing so specific that at any given Commander table, it's unlikely to be able to happen and you'll be stuck there. Why does it start at the 3rd turn, you might ask? Well, most of the bounties are pretty hard to do before the 3rd turn, so it's just going to make that first bounty a guaranteed max reward. And it also really benefits having a 1 or 2 drop in your opener and first player advantage even more. 3rd turn was a nice compromise of when everybody has had a chance to get something going on. A few people have asked me why no cards reference bounties. Well, it's such a light and new thing that there wasn't a ton to do there that was really worth the text space on cards. Cards like Ichor Elixir have fans, but we mostly find that people tend to ignore them if they're not Plane Chase players, even if they're playable otherwise. Path of the Pyromancer, for example, is a card a lot of people just set aside because there's this Planeswalk text that is irrelevant in most Commander games, even if the card actually is pretty strong in some decks. That said, if the bounty minigame is popular enough to bring back, I could see doing more in the future. Another little thing is that we tried having multiple bounties at once at several points, but it got pretty confusing, especially out of the box. If you want to play a complicated version though and see what it's like, you can try having 3 face-up bounties at once with the rule you can only complete 1 in a turn. But Commander has enough going on that I really recommend sticking to just the rules we've written and having 1 bounty at a time. One fun fact from talking with Corey was that originally a lot of them had pretty generic names. For example, Rookie of the West and Rookie of the East for attacking left and right, respectively. But our creative team really knocked it out of the park with a wide cadre of characters, so they got a lot more fun outlaw names. Who is Vera Beth Hanifer, or the incredibly adorable Squeakers the Sly? Hats off to the incredible artists who went hard on these. And maybe, if some of these characters are popular enough, we'll see them someday. And finally, a really smooth thing Corey did that I wanted to call out was to get this whole minigame to fit on cards, both the rules and card mechanics. This is huge. When you include something new in a commander deck, such as Plane Chase, you might not even think about what that means, but there's a lot that goes into it from the production side. Can it fit into the box, or do we need to redesign the entire packaging? Either way, we need to do testing to make sure it won't damage anything as it ships. Not to mention, how do we produce this new object? But if it could fit on cards where some of the tokens normally go, easy, no problem at all. A very sleek solution to make sure it could go right into the decks. So that's something new you'll find in these decks. I'd love to know what you think after you try it out. More like this in the future? Not for you? Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll talk with you again soon. And until then, have fun collecting bounties. You got this. Hello everybody and welcome back. Yesterday you saw me crack open this pre-release pack, show you what's inside, and then walk through the basics of building a sealed deck and the archetypes. But today we're actually going to take these materials and I'm going to show you how I build a sealed deck from start to finish. So first things first, I'm going to clear off all this stuff. We don't need this anymore. All we need is, here's our pre-release card, which we